You. Yes, you. You get off of my set and get out of my picture. Out, you're through, you're washed up, you're finished. I'll see to it you never make another movie again!
Rachel Zegler is back in the headlines again after a brand new interview with Harper's Bazaar, which she's once again talking about the backlash surrounding Disney's Snow White. Yes, that's Snow White, the one that reportedly lost Disney hundreds of millions of dollars.
Jesus Christ, great.
And somehow the story has gotten even more ridiculous.
She became a target of relentless trolling and spiraling controversy in Disney's 2025 Snow White live-action remake, and was scapegoated for the film's mediocre box office figures.
According to the article, the entire experience was incredibly difficult for her. In fact, she said if she had known what was coming, she might have thrown her phone into the ocean, which honestly would have been a phenomenal career move. That single decision might have saved Disney hundreds of millions of dollars. But we'll get to that, because the interview itself is fascinating. Not because of what it reveals about Hollywood, but because of what it reveals about how Hollywood processes failure.
I refuse to assimilate for anybody else's comfort. Rachel Zegler is staying true to herself.
The entire article reads like a glowing tribute to this walking, socially awkward landmine.
Jamie Lynn, seriously? Come on!
The writer talks about Rachel's talent, her strength, her resilience, her journey through adversity. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think that she had survived a nuclear disaster, not starred in a movie that detonated at the box office. Now look, being a public figure is rough. The internet can absolutely be a pretty rough place. Nobody reasonable supports harassment or threats. But there's something interesting about the way this whole story is framed, because according to the interview, the backlash surrounding Snow White was basically something that just happened, like hail at an outdoor wedding, a random storm that appeared out of nowhere, totally unrelated to anything anyone involved in the movie might have said or done, which is amazing.
It's Hollywood, baby.
It's Hollywood, baby.
Because if you were around during the promotional tour, you might remember things a little differently, because the real chaos started when the promotional tour kicked off. Enter Rachel Zegler.
Weird.
Now look, actors say dumb things in interviews all the time. That's pretty normal for Hollywood. But usually the studio PR team gently grabs them by the shoulder and says, hey, maybe let's not insult the audience during the marketing campaign.
You. Out, you're through, you're washed up, you're finished. I'll see to it you never make another movie again!
Apparently that meeting didn't happen quickly enough, because it did eventually happen, but we'll come back to that. The backlash really exploded when she started talking about the movie itself, specifically how the new version was going to fix the old one.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Apparently, the 1937 Disney classic that has been loved for almost a century needed a 20-something-year-old actress to explain why it was wrong. Bold strategy. Very bold.
Reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago. It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power.
Silence! You know the penalty if you fail.
And what a woman is fit for in the world.
But that wasn't the worst of it. The interviews just kept going downhill. Every new clip that emerged felt like another grenade being tossed directly into Walt Disney's cryogenic chamber, blasting pieces of Walt all over Disneyland. At one point, she even implied the prince in the original film was just basically a stalker.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Which again, great way to sell a romantic fairy tale. Great way to tell the world you're a simpleton, because nothing screams magical family entertainment like, yeah, the love story. Creepy and weird. Then politics entered the conversation. In what might be the single greatest anti-marketing moment in modern film history, she basically told people who disagreed with her politically to stay away from the movie. Imagine being a Disney executive watching that interview, just sitting there, hands shaking, wanting to kill her, thinking, did our lead actress just tell half the audience not to buy tickets?
You're fucking kidding me.
Yes, that's exactly what she did. And shockingly, ticket sales were not good.
Stooped to a whole new level of low.
You're the star of a film that costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and your message to a huge portion of the potential audience is, don't you dare buy tickets.
Assholes.
one producer did something about it. According to Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, the blame for the Disney remake's lackluster box office performance was all Rachel Zegler, who he accused of narcissism for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting a movie. He explained that, yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand a 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid to do the publicity for. Jonah Platt also said this is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Now, to be fair, even without the press tour chaos, the movie had problems. Serious problems, because when the trailers dropped, audiences noticed something immediately. The CGI dwarves looked absolutely horrifying. They looked less like lovable fairy tale characters and more like something an AI would generate after being fed nothing but nightmare fuel and PlayStation 3 graphics. And the modernized rewrite of the story didn't exactly inspire confidence either. Because here's something Hollywood still doesn't understand. When people go to see a remake of a classic like Snow White, they usually want to see Snow White. Crazy idea, I know. But that wasn't the only problem. We also had Gal Gadot's acting. While being hilarious with how terrible it is, it doesn't really draw the audience in.
I enjoyed it so much that I even took it home and I changed my voice and I used my body as a way to express her even more.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
And then the opening weekend arrived, and the numbers came in, and that's when things went from bad to catastrophic. Reports referenced by Forbes suggesting the film lost $170 million, which sounds bad on its own, until you realise that the number is actually quite optimistic, because the production budget alone blew to roughly $336 million. And that's before marketing, which means this movie most likely lost close to $300 million. 300 million! That's not just a flop, that's a financial meteor strike. That's a small nation going under. That's the kind of loss that makes studio executives suddenly develop a passionate interest in flight. But here's the outrageous part. Despite all of that, despite the disastrous press tour, despite the box office collapse, Rachel Zegler still says she stands by everything she said. In the interview, she explains that those statements reflect her core beliefs. In no way does she regret speaking her mind. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but when those opinions are delivered during the marketing campaign for a $300 million movie that other people are depending on, you might want to shut the fuck up. Jonah Platt said it best when talking about the lovely Rachel Zegler. Free speech doesn't mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Platt continued, tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desire at the risk of all the colleagues, crew, and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. But here's my favourite line. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. You just know Rachel's never getting that message. Surprisingly, there is one moment in the interview that almost sounds like self-awareness. How could it be? She basically says that even though you think something, you don't always have to say it. And honestly, that might be the only intelligent thought she's had during the entire saga.
Please stop with these crazy lies.
Because if that idea had been applied earlier, Disney might have lost all that money. But instead, we got one of the most spectacular Hollywood disasters in recent memory.
Crash, great.
She is now poised to return to the London Palladium, the scene of her redemption. Although, as she observes pointedly, you had to have actually done something wrong in order to be redeemed.
Get fucked, Hollywood. Yes. Wasn't putting actors on a pedestal a bad idea? For the last year, Disney has virtually tried to pretend that the Snow White remake never existed, which honestly might be the smartest strategy anyone involved in this project has had so far. And then out comes Rachel Zegler to explain how she was the real victim in all of this, and that she did nothing wrong. Hollywood actors, never any accountability, and always the victims.
But I think I really do identify most with Snow White.
Anyway, what do you guys think? Was this disaster inevitable? Or did the press tour turn a mediocre movie into a legendary Hollywood meltdown?
Weird.
You're through, you're washed up, you're finished. I'll see to it you never make another movie again.